great year to start that process. It certainly won't look very attractive, but this is probably the year we need to cut back, if not eliminate, much of our landscape watering. And then as funds allow, replace that landscaping with a more appropriate plants and a more appropriate layout. Bottom line here, it is really hard for us to preach water conservation, tell somebody that they need to sacrifice to cut back if we don't do the same. And so I think besides the practical aspect of saving water when we deal with our own landscaping here at the LOCAP complex and the other county facilities, there also is the symbolic message as well. Okay, so all of that falls under my first category. Other than public outreach and those actions I outlined, what else can we do? Well, the next major category I want to talk about on the list is what I'll call permit and technical assistance. In talking with the water districts and others, we keep hearing that some assistance from the county would be very helpful in terms of dealing with state and federal regulators, and also the county itself. And a prime example here is Redwood Valley. If the current weather conditions don't change dramatically here, Redwood Valley's water intake at Lake Mendocino will be high and dry in about a month or so, if not sooner. And I see Bill Cooler from Redwood Valley is in the audience, and you can sharpen those statistics. But suffice to say, they are preparing for this eventuality, and they have said that they could use staff assistance. Now, with respect to the county, it may be, and I haven't had time to talk to you about this, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but one suggestion would be for the executive office to create a team or designate a point person to help entities like Redwood Valley and the other water districts get whatever county permits or assistance they need, somebody that can basically walk them down the hall to the planning department or wherever it needs to be, but just to help accelerate this process here. With regard to technical assistance, we at the Water Agency, we now have a person who is EPA trained and certified for indoor water audits, and we are offering his services to the other water districts to help them sort out matters with some of their larger water users. So that's one other angle we can provide. What I'd like to do now is actually just pause for a second. I want to invite Will Carson from the Millview County Water District up there to talk about a specific project, Intertie, and I think it's been a good segue. This is a good example of how we could possibly be assistance.
I'm Will Carson. I'm the Vice President of the board for Millview. Carrie asked me if I could come and give you guys some background on some of the behind-the-scenes activity that's been going on to deal with the upcoming water shortage. And this is just kind of a broad nuts and bolts overview and a not who owns what right or what you have to do legally to give your neighbor a glass of water. The managers of Millview, Calpella, Willow, and Redwood Valley have been discussing a bunch of what-if scenarios. And we are fortunate to have some pretty sharp managers in our area. A little background. The greater Ukiah Valley is actually has the ability to interconnect the water systems from Burke Hill all the way to Redwood Valley. Redwood Valley and Calpella have a 4-inch intertie pipe between the two systems. Millview normally supplies Calpella with 100 gallons per minute through a 4-inch intertie pipe. Millview has supplied the city of Ukiah through a 6-inch intertie during emergencies. An example was a couple years ago when we had the New Year's floods. We were able to subsidize the city of Ukiah's water. Ukiah has also assisted Millview in the past through that same intertie. And the city of Ukiah also has an intertie with Willow Water. The sources of the water for the districts is varied, and I'm not talking about rights. Redwood Valley has a small well and intakes in the lake. Calpella gets roughly 3/4 of their water from Millview's plant and the rest from a well. Millview has a well field at its plant, and during the summer months, Millview has to put intakes into the river to help fill a pond to help replenish the water in the wells. The city of Ukiah has several wells and the Rainy Collector to provide water. Willow has 2 well fields. Now for the what-ifs. And basically, The district general managers have been approaching this like you would earthquake preparedness. What are you going to do? Where do you have to stage things? How big a piece of equipment do you need to move things? So the what ifs, what might happen if things continue going as they are right now? Redwood Valley won't be able to pull water from the lake when the lake drops to about 24,000 acre feet. Millview can increase its water flow to Calpella to the capacity of the intertie pipe, and the excess water could flow through the Redwood Valley intertie to Redwood Valley. This will supply roughly 100 gallons per day per household for the residents in Redwood Valley. And Redwood Valley is also researching ways to draw additional water from the lake when it actually drops below their existing intakes. Even if all of the Millview, Calpella, and Redwood Valley customers cut back on their water use, what happens if there isn't enough water in the river for Millview to replenish, to put water in the ponds to replenish its wells? Could the city of Ukiah assist, and how do you make that happen? The scenario continues. What would happen if the Rainy Collector and Ukiah's wells begin to underperform because of the lack of the water in the river? And what happens if Willow's wells, which are also near the river, start having problems? We also have the problems of the other water companies, which would be Regina and Russian River states, don't have hard connections. They don't have interties to their neighbors. So how would they support or be supported by their neighbors? How do we move water around to keep the citizens healthy and be able to respond to the amount of water needed for a fire? You wouldn't want to tell somebody, well, if we had this document signed, then we would have been able to put the fire out at your house. Fortunately, there's good communication between the districts and the boards. Roland also has meetings with the water districts, which furthers communications. The addition of Sean White to Russian River Flood Control has been helpful to the communications between the overseer of the rights for the water available from the lake and those who put that water to beneficial use. We are having another brainstorming session on February 11th to talk more about the nuts and bolts of these problems, and more of where do we put the pumps, how much flow can we get, how many homes will that benefit. And this meeting will include Millview, Redwood Valley, Calpella, City of Ukiah, and Willow. We are then hoping to get together with Roland and Carey, Supervisor Brown, I'm sorry, to discuss things afterwards. These discussions that we've had in the past haven't covered any of the legal problems involved in giving your neighbor water or how we could provide enough to be able to put out a fire. But we hope that the people who can declare emergencies will be able to assist in that area. We feel that everybody has to sacrifice so we can make this water stretch as far as possible, and it has to be a shared sacrifice. It wouldn't be fair for half the valley to cut back severely while everyone else continues as business as usual. And they would be using up water that would be definitely needed later. We're all drawing on the same watershed, and during a severe drought, the last water flowing down the river will be water from Lake Mendocino, which is project water, and we need to make every drop go as far as possible. One of the additional problems is many people in Mendocino County speak from a position of responsibility about water in Mendocino County. Not counting Russian River flood control water, the city of Ukiah has rights to about 14,500 acre feet, with Millview and Willow adding about another 7,700 acre feet. Redwood Valley has rights to 4,500 acre feet in the lake, but has strict conditions when they can take it and no place to store it. The ag users have rights to thousands of acre feet of water. They also have thousands of acres under cultivation. Potter Valley Irrigation District has an influence on the water that flows into the lake, and PG&E has an influence on the water that flows into Potter Valley. Russian River Flood Control represents those who have rights to the 8,000 acre feet from the lake, and Russian River Flood Control has a valuable voice and real responsibilities. But the board has a real voice and real responsibilities also. Most of the water in the county during a normal year is not Russian River Flood Control water or any one type of water, but it is a combination.